So outside of book club, I, at the insistence of dear old friend, who is almost caught up with the whole series now if she hasn't finished it, um, and then also at the recommendation of Mike from Mike's Book Reviews when we had uh, our talk with him a couple months ago. I am now a book and a half into Dungeon Crawler Carl,
Nice.
and I I will fully admit that before listening to Mike talk about it, before talking to my friends about it, I had zero intention of ever starting the series because it got so popular so quickly. And I don't mean to be a fucking hipster dork about it, but it seemed too good to be true. Like it seemed silly. Just it sounded like it was not going to be my thing.
Yeah,
And I could not have been more wrong. And I am so happy that I got pressured into this by friends and listened to Mike's recommendations, because it is honestly and genuinely the most fun that I've had with a book series in a very long time. And it's not just fun. Like it honestly, it has way more heart than it has any business having.
that's great.
Um, the characters are fantastic. The world is very fun, and it's got great world building and interesting world building, even though it really is literally just like this hodgepodge of sci-fi and fantasy novels and video games and tabletop RPGs all just like smushed into one. But that's kind of like the point of the world building.
Right.
Um,
Well, it's like literally, yeah, literally an RPG.
yeah, it is literally a lit RPG, and it
Yeah.
is lit, as the kids say. But so if for any of our listeners who are unfamiliar with the kind of the gist of it, most basic elevator pitch is the world is ending. We've The lease on our planet was not renewed essentially, and so the uh, intergalactic syndicate that owns the planet has taken it over for mining rights. And as a way of partially getting rid of the existing population, they set up this game, this dungeon crawl kind of RPG game. It's more of like an MMORPG at this point, with the scale is set up physically built into the planet, and it's a way to kind of recoup investments by the rest of the galaxy watching this reality TV show unfold. And our main character, Carl,
Poorly titled book for to give that scope. That is such a cooler
right?
than the title of the book. What in the
Yeah.
world?
So, but
Terrible
it does kind of
title.
capture some of the feel of the story.
It comes
So
off as
Carl,
Indiana Jones. Like this is
it
an
it it is fairly similar in some ways, in some feel, but also I will say it our character Carl makes it down into the game and starts progressing through the levels, along with his cat, or his girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut. And it's so much fun. It's a lit RPG, which literally means you're progressing as an RPG. You're gaining experience. You're going on side quests that are actual side quests. You're getting item and character NPC descriptions written into the book. Um, but one thing I've heard a couple of people talk about this, maybe even Mike did himself, but it's, of all the RPGs that I've ever played, the one that it most is like hands down is Borderlands.
oh,
It,
awesome.
as far as like sense of humor and tone, it is very Borderlands. So again,
Interesting.
I don't want to give spoilers. It is a lot of fun. I think it would be a fun series for us to dive into as a group, as a little palate cleanse at some point in the future, because it's extremely fast paced, very easy reads, and just fun. It's just so much fun. So That's my little
Yeah,
pitch for Dungeon Caller, Carl. It is going off of my thing last week with K-pop Demon Hunters, that both of those things kind of live in this space where it's not something that I ever thought that I would consume,
yeah,
and ended up loving it way more
right,
than I ever would have thought.
right.
So
Yeah, I remember um Mike talking about it fondly, both with us, and then I saw you posted a video about it. But the stuff I had seen, yeah, I didn't hear him talk about it in any depth, so I didn't feel like I really. He said it was a lit RPG, and then he said, that he really enjoyed it and that it was a lot of fun. Um, but the Ozabo Soup guys read it and talked a little more in
oh wow.
detail about the premise. And once they like said it was before you had said you actually enjoyed it that I'd listened to that. The way they talked about it, I was like, oh, okay, that actually does sound good.
Premise is cool.
A lot of people just say something's good, and it's like, okay, I'll never check that out. But they like talked through similar to what you just said. They talked through what they liked about it and the general setting. I was like, okay, that's actually a pretty interesting. That's a pretty interesting idea for a book. Yeah. So it sounds it does sound like a good time.
It's so fun. It's definitely one we should pick up in the near future. So
I like it. Well, hello everyone. Manga Man, and welcome to the Undercharged podcast, where tonight we'll be discussing manga and anime and Frieren. We'll be warming your
Frieren.
hearts
Super
and
cool
chilling your
stuff.
bones. I'm because Frieren means ice in German, which is
Thought I
why
meant ice cream.
otherwise, yeah, ice cream. But otherwise, it doesn't really make any sense. But I'm Daniel,
I'm Steven.
And I'm
and it's great to see you guys tonight and to book club it up. I think our general plan tonight is to talk about Frieren, and it's honestly this is perfect timing for this. The manga post anime. So the manga, which was really not an old manga, which is kind of crazy to me. It started, I believe, in 2020, and
ongoing.
it's a decent amount of chapters. It's ongoing. There's new episodes. I think there's another week till there's a new chapter coming out.
It's
Mhm.
the weirdest thing to be reading a manga in real time.
And it is a very different experience.
Very wrong to me, but that's definitely probably a minority for folks. But it is a weird.
Well,
really.
it's funny that you say that because it's technically the right way to do it, like traditionally, like when you get the manga, but you would get like a big book, the Shonen Jump or whatever it was, which would have a bunch of different manga in it, and you would read a whole bunch of different stories in an ongoing fashion, and then obviously they would release volumes, but
But it does feel weird for us. I mean, we started with Berserk and then
yes,
Full Metal Alchemist and
yes,
Attack on Titan, these finished series, or
finished series,
essentially
and then
finished with Berserk.
and then either online where you can read as much as you like, or the deluxe editions, which are these thick books where it's 30 some chapters, 600 pages of book, but yeah, when you get 12, well, I guess Dragon Ball Z is 12, but Frieren's usually more like 16 to 20 pages. But there's usually a decent amount of these latest chapters may be a little less so, but there's usually a lot of just graphic panels to where the story just flies by, and so it's just like it literally will be like one part of a scene very often, and it just really leaves you wanting more. It feels like I feel like if you got 5 of those in a chunk, it wouldn't be so bad. But yeah, it's still great to be reading it. But yeah, it's not maybe not my ideal way, but the anime.
Well, it just sucks because we love it so much that like
Yes.
now that we're on the one episode per week or whatever, and it's not just okay on to the next one.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
Feed me more, please.
I know, right?
We must wait.
So, Steven, you've only watched a few episodes of the anime, right? But you've obviously read everything.
Yeah.
But,
so I've read everything, and so now I'm going to be going back and revisiting the anime, so that I'm caught up for when season 2 arrives. But I have watched the first few episodes.
You watched first, yeah.
Yeah.
But the anime was 22 episodes. Not that that's important. Came out in 2023, and then was releasing into 2024. And I actually finished those last few episodes live in the US at least, which was kind of fun. But got into it as it was going, but really wonderful. That anime goes through the first 59, 60 chapters of the manga. What's crazy is then now we've read through 141, 142, which is even more chapters than the anime covers. And very excitingly, just this week, they released the little season 2 teaser. I'm curious if we'll get an actual trailer or if it's not, but most of the little stuff we saw in that was just little character moments and features that were kind of hard for me to place as where they were happening. But then there's one shot of a grave site, so that tells us at least one thing that's happening. But I'm optimistic that we will go through. I'm hopeful that we will go through the back in time arc, but it might. I could see it just being through the Golden Land arc and that being it, because that grave site is. At first I was thinking that was the statue of the goddess, but I was clearly wrong. That's Dinkin's wife's grave, which is no longer gold. So that might be a hint that that's what we're going to get through in this next series. But that would mean they were slowing down on chapters, because it's pretty much 3 chapters ish to one episode.
It's a good sign to make.
And this would be it'd be closer to 1-to-1. But I will say some of the chapters in this later part are a lot more dense than some of the stuff in the first one, which those slice of life things, a lot of them, they would fit 1 or 2 or even 3 of those into one episode because they were not too long.
After we surpassed the show, the arcs at that point start getting a lot meatier.
They do.
And a lot longer.
Well, and it's interesting where there's like, and I feel like that's happening in the stuff we're reading right now. We're in a zoom in moment, but it's like, it's interesting where there's little zoom in moments where like we zoom in so it's the end of their journey at the very beginning of the manga, obviously, which takes us through Frieren assembling her new team and then the new purpose of her journey to go to Enda to reconnect with Himmel. You get they start sliding in that it's getting dangerous up in the north again.
Have we talked much about Frieren on the show yet? Because I feel like we should talk that, like we should gush a little bit before we get into the new stuff. Because
sure, absolutely.
Before we get in this here, you can count this as the pre-spoiler section of the podcast, dear listeners.
Anime adjacent stuff. That's fair. Yeah.
Because I think that it's one of the most interesting things about this story, both in the anime and the manga. Same story, obviously, but one of the things that I found so fascinating at the first time I started watching it and reading it was that the beginning of the story is the end,
right,
of the story,
right.
Which is part of what makes this such a fascinating examination of traditional fantasy tropes. Is the beginning of our Frieren journey is the end of her journey with Himmel, the hero, and that band. They've already won. They've defeated the Demon King, and it's the end of the story. It's the end. It's the breakup of the Fellowship. It's like starting Lord of the Rings with the ring being destroyed,
right?
Which is fascinating to me. And obviously then the real story unfolds afterwards, like you said. But Frieren is an elf, and so she outlasts all of her party that she spent this decade, which to her is nothing, but to everybody else in the party is a significant portion of their life,
right?
And that's how long this journey to kill the Demon King took. And she's left alone after.
Right.
and kind of has that realization at the end of that first chapter of her friends passing,
All right. It covered.
and
Yeah. Those
kind
first
of
like
that,
keep going. Sorry.
no, to just the realization that she has that then kind of propels her journey forward of time means something, even though
Right.
she is immortal. These relationships mean something, and she ended up taking some of it for granted.
Right.
And the desire for understanding and the desire to not repeat that again, I think, is a very important part of what kind of puts her on that next journey and reforming a new fellowship with the next generation.
Yes. And it's very, so yeah, it opens with that journey ending, and that's there's um a meteor shower that happens every 50 years, and then basically that first chapter ends up covering like 50, 60 years of time where the party ends, and to her it means nothing, and they gather back together at 50 years to watch it again. And she takes these old men, because she's not aged, but they've aged. She takes the old men to see an even better view that she journeyed with, and then shortly after that, she comes back around, and the main hero Himmel has died, and Frieren's sort of awakening to emotions is she realizes for her hardly any time has passed. Even 50 years is really not all that much time. But when it's that moment when Himmel dies, she sheds a tear and realizes that, wait, he actually meant something to her, but she didn't really know him. She didn't really ever try to get to know him, and that's actually probably an exaggeration. But as we come to find out,
though.
What?
Sorry, I'm
You
gonna
good?
gush in a second. I was just chiming in. That's her conviction, though, is that
Yes,
while it
it
might
is.
be off base and not true, she definitely feels like she never.
But she feels that way. I think she feels, which it's interesting where, it's a thing, even though, we're not elves and we're all living short lives. I think it's a feeling that's very universal to humans where, it's probably not decades that we feel that, but like sometimes you will end up through the way your life's going, you'll end up around a person a lot. And then for whatever reason, you move or you change jobs or you're working on a project together and you're no longer doing it. And then you realize later that you just didn't invest in this relationship at all and you took it for granted, and it's all these things. Now it's obviously like it's adding a fantasy, timeless, elven component to all that. But it's a really human thing to take to feel like you've taken relationships for granted or not invested, and it captures those feelings in a really really special and natural way. And I know, yeah, Sam, you said you wanted to gush, so maybe you should gush.
I mean, I've talked with you guys about this a couple times, but the thing that's so interesting to me is and I guess I've kind of found a different way to articulate it, is that this is the only story where we get to explore character development in an elf. Because everywhere else it's like, oh, they grow up and then they're basically this age forever. And that's kind of it. Like even in Lord of the Rings, like Arwen's the same, Elrond's the same, they're all the same, Legolas is the same. There's no
You maybe
challenge.
get it a little in the Silmarillion, like a little.
Yeah, oh yeah, you do. Like, I mean, Feanor is crazy. Like the stuff that they do is messed up. But again, you don't get the inside scoop on that. It's more like, and then he murdered his children or something like that, like,
well, and the consequences, like,
yeah,
of having relationships with people that are not like that.
Well,
so that's what I'm gushing about, is that I love that this story is telling, because Frieren even admits to a humanity. Like, she's not a human, but she admits to being like amongst humanity whenever she talks about like fighting the demons, which I found confusing, but also not in the same space that like maybe that this is just what the space of like of elf development is like. And so I love this story that it's literally called Frieren. It's told from her point of view. She's already beat the big bad. She's just like living her life afterwards, but there's still stuff to do. But basically the story's over and we're just going on because that's what would happen to an elf. And none of this stuff would matter, and trying to find meaning in the stuff that had so much meaning. It's just very, very, very unique. There is no story I've read that's like this, and it's the only one that I've seen that actually has character development for an elf, something internal.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I
no,
want to combine kind of those two sentiments that you guys just talked about. In one of the reasons I think that this story has been so powerful, I think to all three of us, but I know I can say for myself specifically, is, there's been a lot of loss in my life in the last couple of years, the last year especially. Big losses, deaths in the immediate family, and that feeling of, I don't think you can escape that feeling of, at least at the very least, I so wish that I had more time
yeah,
with these people. And what I love, and then what I take a lot of hope from personally, is seeing Frieren take that to heart.
Yeah.
And seeing her consciously deciding to do things different with the next people that are in her life, and
Yes.
to not take them for granted. But then also, Sam, to your point, the whole idea of, life goes on for the elf, that's also true for us that are left behind after these losses.
sure,
Life
yeah.
goes on. And so I deeply appreciate watching Frieren continue after devastating losses in her life. And kind of, it's one of those things where stories can model things for you, of continuing. Life goes on, life doesn't end. So you can choose to pick yourself back up and cherish the relationships that you still have, and through that honor the people that came before.
Absolutely. Well, and I like too that we do get to see that progression in Frieren in the very beginning, in the first 5 chapters or so, because she's very cold. You see that, at the very beginning, you then see the teardrop, and then you get to see when she gets introduced to Fern. And so the main characters at the beginning of this story are obviously the Frieren, the elf mage. Then there's Himmel the hero, who is the hero that's going to defeat the Demon King. Then there's Hyder the priest, who is the quintessential priest healer. And then you've got Eisen the dwarf, who is the party's warrior, and is a really great characterization of warriors, which comes up a lot with Stark, who comes up later too. But I love just how much everyone gets freaked out by Stark, because he can like fall from cliffs and stuff and not be hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful little ongoing bit. But it starts with a little bit of the party, and then obviously we quickly age out of what's going on with them. And we do see that turn with Frieren, where Hyder now is also old. She goes to see him. He's taken on a young girl to take care of her, and Hyder basically tricks Frieren into staying around. He wants her to take Fern on to become a mage, and Frieren won't do it, because at this point Frieren's like, "There's no point,
She's a bit jaded.
Yeah, she's jaded, and she's like apprentices just die quickly, and they just get in the way, and they slow you down. So
she sounds like the high elf mage at that point too.
She does. She's a lot like Ciri.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
At that
Although
point,
Ciri will actively take on mages, but it's
self-serving though.
yeah, it is. It absolutely is. But there's a lot more similarities between them at this point, at the beginning. And then from there, Hyder's trick keeps Frieren around for 5 or so plus years. Enough
Really
time
not that
for her
long for her.
to, yeah, enough for her to get acquainted with, and he tricks her into starting to teach Fern to where she's strong enough not to be a burden while she's going, and it's a great little bit. And then Hyter also passes away and dies in the first 6-ish chapters. When we but at that point Fern's strong enough to go with her, and they do a really good job of making you care for Fern right away. And they do just a really, in general, I found this story does a really good job of using classic fantasy tropes, but then also characterizing everyone in a really unique way. Where Fern is a really unique individual. Later, Stark is a unique individual, but then all of the parties that same way. But then most of the little random characters that come into the story later on, whether it's the monk elf we meet, or Ubel, or the two little funny fighting anime girls, all of them end up having their own unique personalities, and I really feel like the story sings in that way of really showing you everybody's humanity, even when it's not always like, even if they're not like wonderful people, it does a really good job of kind of showing you what they're about. And it's I think why it's one of the things that makes the story feel lived in and grounded, even though it's a very high fantasy. And then it's also it's a very classic manga or anime. Like, there's tons of fantasy tropes, but there's also tons of manga and anime tropes.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this, Daniel. It's like this book, or sorry, not even book, this Frieren, this creation is basically everything that we loved when we were between the ages of 10 and 16, all mashed up into one book.
Yeah,
like literally has,
and that we still love.
It's got something for everybody. No, we still love it, but this one is totally a smorgasbord of all of it.
Yes,
it's got all of it. Like, you got well, maybe we have yet to see the Super Saiyan element, but it might be. I mean, I don't know. Stark has gone pretty Super Saiyan a couple times. Anyways,
I have to say one thing that is not story related, but just while we're kind of gushing about the manga itself, and this is absolutely true for the anime as well. When I'm reading any comic book, the art is extremely important to me, and the art in Frieren is absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous.
Yeah, it's great.
The action,
doubly true in the anime as well.
Yeah,
it's double.
They capture it perfectly and just add the movement and it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. And one thing I loved in some of the later chapters, post in the not caught up in the surpassing the anime, there's several chapters that had several pages at the beginning of each chapter that had been watercolored.
Yes.
And I would do unspeakable things for a fully watercolor painted edition of Frieren, because it was just absolutely beautiful, and it's the landscapes are epic. You get the epic fantasy feel from these huge spaces that they go to. The characters are superbly drawn and executed. It's just beautiful to look at, as well as being a phenomenal story.
It's true. It's really, really true. Well, so we should talk a little more about the beginning, but I also think a good way to do that is, instead of I had this maybe at a later section, but a good way for us to kind of work through this section is also through my my half-baked internet research.
The only kind of internet research, the best kind.
I know, right?
Peak internet research.
But the story, Frieren, was written by Kanehito Yamada, and if you Google this, and I need to do just a teensy bit more research here to make sure I'm correct here, but I do believe in my research that the spelling of that name, if you're Japanese, that is a man's name, but if you Google it, a woman comes up. So I need to. So my understanding though is that it actually was written by a man, and that if it was written by a woman, the spelling of the name would be different. And I'm guessing these things are decided enough in Japan to where some people are pretty insistent that it is written by a man who keeps relatively private. But
I wonder if they use like pseudonyms for
yeah,
in manga writing.
I'm not sure, but then the Tsukasa, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but Tsukasa Abe, who is the illustrator, I believe is female, and is a woman, but I do believe Yamada is a man, which is kind of funny, but there's that. Say what again?
Funny that it's not a woman.
So the author of the writer, the author creator is a man, but the illustrator is a woman.
I thought it was kind of crazy that it's not a woman that made this.
Basically, I also kind of
all the women have made the best stuff. Like,
yeah, I know.
And it's also about like, you know, a lady. So
it is about a lady, which again, you know, men can write it. But that brings me into my next point, which is that when it was developed, it was viewed, and you can see where the bones of this are still present. It was viewed as a comedy manga. The goal was just to write something kind of silly about an elf that was obsessed with killing demons, and that was just
her
the
head
point.
caught in the mimics.
Yeah, and all the caught in the mimics, and you know, stoic elf who just wanted to kill demons and go on hunts. And again, you can see the bones of that in what it is, and it's very funny in the way the characters relate to each other. There's tons of great little JRPG jokes and other sorts of jokes. So you can see the bones of that. But what Yamada said was when Abe did the illustrations of Frieren, the aura of humanity convinced Yamada to pursue a story focused on the emotional growth of the character and the understanding of human relationships. So it's really interesting where like the art and the story ended up being very wedded, because
that's so cool.
The character that was developed had more depth than the original author even intended, and that's kind of where we end up with this story, which I also think that's why it feels so layered and deep, because it was meant to be one thing, and that humor is there, but then and she is obsessed with killing demons, but then all this other like natural depth comes from how much the author ended up caring about these artists, or caring about them even more.
You know what that reminds me of a lot is Robert E. Howard's description of writing Conan, where he described writing Conan stories as Conan telling him
the stories
about things that had happened in his life. It feels very much like that, where but in this case the drawing of Frieren came about, the illustrations of her, what she looked like, and it was almost like the character was speaking to the mangaka of like, oh no, hey, this is actually what my story is. This is actually who I am. The direction that you're going is not right. It's like the character revealed the story to the creators, not the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Magic.
So
Truly.
I don't have like a few more like notes on the creation, and then we'll have a nice little topic of discussion. But one thing that's really fun is if you go onto social media, you can search like "be like Himmel the hero," or "what would Himmel do," and there's lots of fun stuff there. It's kind of a mantra in Japan. And there's even a guy who like has like helped some people that got mugged or whatever. There's all sorts of people being heroic because they tried to think what would Himmel do, which is just kind of fun.
I fucking love that.
It's really beautiful. Yeah, it's a really beautiful, really sweet thing. So
especially frankly in the world that we live in right now, like that it feels so divided and so out of sync, that here's this mythical hero that isn't even the main character of this story. He's the main character of the story that happened beforehand. but because Frieren is keeping his legacy alive, it's literally kept alive. What would Himmel do?
Well, and and the way statues end up mattering so much in the story too. It's sort of there's really some interesting ideas with all of that. How much it matters to actually remember heroes and honor them and remember your history and make sure things carry on. I mentioned this briefly in the beginning, but Frieren means ice, which is an interesting idea with her being icy in the beginning and slowly melting over time and warming up. Similarly, Stark means strong in German. Most of the names are German of some kind. It's very obvious that that's the case, but most of them have a very obvious meaning. I didn't go and do a bunch of research on what each of the names means, but something fun you can do if you'd like to on your own is go through. Almost all of the names have a very one-to-one German meaning that's on the nose enough to most of them aren't even surprising, but that's something fun as you're reading the story and people get a name. It's they are not fantasy names that have been invented for the most part. They have very specific meanings in German that tie to that character, which is kind of Wolfian, which is also kind of fun, which maybe we'll bring up later. But
Fun little side note, side story that's similar. I can't remember which character this was. Maybe it was Archaon or something, but there was a character in the original. I think it was in Warhammer Fantasy. I think it was Fantasy, not 40K, but early on in the formation of the main storyline of one of the Warhammer universes, they had kind of pulled a Darth Vader of their big bad guy. They gave some Germanic sounding name, but it was like it was like secret bad guy, like he kind of an Anakin. If you started the Anakin story without knowing that he was going to be Darth Vader,
right?
And the German publishers came to them and were like, "Hey, we think you're kind of like planning to make this guy the villain, but just FYI, everyone in Germany knows that he's the big bad guy because essentially the word that you picked for his name like is the German for big bad guy." So kind of backfired.
It's kind of funny.
German words are great for villainous things post 1940s, but can also backfire a little bit with anybody that speaks the language.
Right. Well, that's like anytime you use another language, it works really well and adds depth when it's not your language.
Yeah.
That's really funny. And then those were most of my notes. The last one was, and this ties up with probably a big chunk of the discussion we'll have tonight on the later chapters, but also in the beginning, people really hate, for the most part, well, I guess it's divided. There's a lot of people that love Frieren and love it just as it is, but it makes a lot of people really mad that the demons in this story are evil. And are not just another
that they're evil.
Yes, or at least not, or to say that they're not just a race that is at odds with humanity, but have their own purposes. It makes people really upset that they are seemingly inherently and always evil. And Frieren, the story, goes at pains to relay this point to us that demons lie, they cannot relate to humanity. In everything that we've been shown so far, they cannot be trusted. They use language only to deceive, and
they're straight up people.
And to kill people. Now again, as
see, that's interesting to me that's a reaction that people are having, because I feel like, and we've discussed this between the three of us, but I feel that I don't even know that evil is the right word that I would pick for the demons in this. Like, well, yes, you would, from a human perspective, yes, because they're predators towards humanity. Like that's their whole essence is to kill humans. But I wouldn't call lions evil,
sure,
because they kill gazelles.
Dominate,
well,
The
and I
demons
will
are
say,
trying to dominate. Although, no, just the one that was empathetic.
but it's not but it's not from an emotional place. It's not coming from a place of I am doing this because I hate humans.
right.
It's another example of demon, similar like we talked briefly about last week. It with K-pop demon hunters, it's a very Eastern version of demons. These aren't demons like from Christianity where they're fallen angels that are filled with hate for God's
Right.
creation and humans and want to cause havoc and destruction and stuff because from this place of evil, of malice, which we'll get to malice specifically.
Yes.
We find out they can't feel any of that stuff. They can't feel guilt. They can't feel malice. It's just an instinctual thing that they are doing. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't stand against them, but I've personally thought that was more interesting and in a lot of ways more chilling as well, that it's not just like some, I don't know, that we would something that we would call evil. They're not trying to exterminate humans because they hate them, because they
Right.
think they're lesser than or
So
I
sub
think it
anything.
comes
It's
from
just
the crowd that loves Demon Slayer. That's where I think it's coming from.
well, I think it's a few things personally. But two things I'll say real fast. The criticism I've seen that goes this way is all anime focused. So it's not people that have read the manga and are including um the mocked of the Golden Land information. It is all
okay.
based on the aura, the guillotine, and the demons we see in the one town. And then Frieren, and then also the story, the story of the little child demon and everything that we get there. Um, like it's all centered around that, which I do think I don't think the criticism is valid. I well, I guess people are entitled to their opinions. I think it's a little misguided, is I guess what I'd say, because I do think it is interesting in a fantasy story, um, well, to have to have inherently evil races or races that like the feeling like basically it's justified to nearly always be at odds with them, or not even nearly, to always be at odds with them, and that working with them is never good, a la goblins and Tolkien. But I do think there is a movement in certain sections of the culture that, one, that depiction of always evil races is too simplistic, because that potentially it's also bad because some people say it's reactionary and that it's like because then the demons are stand-in for XYZ group you find reprehensible and can't live life with blah 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 blah, and
Sure.
I think people grabbing on that impulse and also assuming that any being that talks has to be in a stand-in for a race of people or a type of people or whatever. And it's like, I just don't really think that's what's going on with the demons. Like, we're not like, yeah, maybe it is the idea of like evil and things that are at odds with society do have to be removed from it and eradicated. And it's trying to make the statement that as a goal is not a bad thing, regardless of what it is. I think Frieren is maybe trying to make us grapple with that again. But I think the criticisms of it are from that angle that like, there's a lot of, it's jingoistic, it's xenophobic. There's all sorts of people, but again, it's all coming from kind of one direction of the frame, and
Yeah.
I think it's overly simplistic. I think it's not taking the anime at face value, and it's assuming there's just a breadth of things where, again, obviously Game of Thrones. What's funny is Game of Thrones is often mentioned as like, well, it's all human conflict and it's all competing interests. It's not evil in the same way. And yeah, there are evil people in Game of Thrones, but even then, it's like it's interests all competing. That being said, at Game of Thrones, there is potentially an evil ice people at the top of it all,
Right.
but also maybe they have. We don't know in Martin's. We don't know if in Martin's conception of that, if they actually have a motivation that we don't understand.
I mean, left to the show alone, I guess they're all Craster's babies.
Yes, basically, they're
They're all just Craster's babies.
Craster's babies. They need.
Yeah, I agree with you completely that's where their criticism is coming from. But also I agree with you that I think it's fairly simplistic. And I don't know, maybe I guess see they don't even feel quite it I guess maybe it feels similar in some ways to Dracula or
Sure.
Nosferatu.
Yeah.
But in that way of a predator, and it doesn't feel like Nazis or Third Reich Hitler stuff where it's like evil with a very direct purpose and malice and coming from a place of hatred. It doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
It feels, it just, to me, they feel like a predator species.
No, I agree, and I think where we're at in this conversation is a good time to start to, and we could talk more detail about how that's portrayed in the anime and the manga in the first beginning if we wanted to, and maybe we can circle back to that as we talk. But this is maybe a good time because it pretty naturally pivots into what's going to end up, what happens in the next few chapters.
Yeah, I think that the mocked story is the perfect examination of this. So we're heading into spoiler territories if you've only watched the anime and you have not caught up with the manga.
Yeah. And we will probably, this will be spoilery, but also will be, if you're just curious and you want to hang out, probably general enough to where it won't totally, depending on your my desire to not hear spoilers is often very low. So like, I'm sometimes down to hear about it and then experience it with more information, but obviously everybody's, we're not going to beat by beat describe probably everything that happens. So, so feel free to hang out if you'd like, but yes, you might have some things spoiled. But before we dive fully into the mock discussion, which is the first really big arc coming out of it. So we get our first class mage exam because it's revealed that to go into this more dangerous region because they defeated the Demon King, the world is peaceful again, but slowly and surely the demons have crept back in, monsters, and the distinction we get in Frieren that there are monsters, which are mana beings of some kind that do evaporate, JRPG style, after they're defeated. Demons are a subset of monsters that are able to speak. If they're able to speak, they're considered a demon. If they're not able to speak, they're just a monster. But we open back up with a little a story pretty quick, where they fight a legionnaire general demon, and it was just really fun getting to see a demon fight hand to hand. And the way that was depicted with his like weighty swords. I don't have a bunch to say about this segment, but I thought it was interesting. We do get hammered home again that the demons lie a lot because they use a fake child again to try to get at somebody. But any major takeaways from you guys about that segment?
No, it's all good. Every episode is good. There's not a stinker in the whole series thus far. And I don't want to say that it felt like filler, because that sounds like it lesser than. I think that, like you said, it was cool to see another side of the demons and just kind of further finding out on the way to the Mocked and Golden City arc.
Yes.
Kind of finding out just a little bit more about how demons work.
Yes.
In this universe.
So on the way to that, there's after this another set. So I would just include all of these for now, because we're not going to be super chronological. But there's a bunch of slice of life episodes, which there's a lot of slice of life adventuring episodes in the first section of Frieren, which I just adored. I adored all of it. Like little quest of the, quest of the week is maybe what you could call it. But like in this post anime section, I find them all charming. I find them all enjoyable. I could read
some of them deeply moving too.
Yes. But I could literally read them. Like I could read thousands of these, and I don't know if
Yes.
I would ever get old, as long as they were like of the relative quality that these are. So I could kick us off, but and then we can maybe take a moment and each talk about one if we've got one that we enjoyed. But of those little slice life episodes in this point, I just loved the the segment, the Frieren's capitalist society capitalist one episode with the Holt company, or I'm getting that name wrong right now. I'm just absolutely blanking. But she goes to an area which is kind of
where
really,
they like shares the money.
yes, where it's run down, and they make this point that the bread's stale. The bread in the stales area, because they can't get good bread there. There's too many monsters, and the empire's not strong here anymore because they keep talking more and more about this empire that used to be even more powerful than it was, broader than it was, and but I love it. Turns out she's got this debt to this area, and then there's this whole kind of bait and switch where she's got a debt, and there's this, it sets this up like, oh gosh, this is going to be this huge section now where she's going to be stuck paying off this debt. But pretty quickly it turns out, no, that she's going to help them find this silver and gold, and that will allow her to pay off her debt. But then the company in that area will be able to use this money to, reestablish some supply lines and get everything back up and running. And I just, it's Frieren is never like, it's not ever heavy-handed, but there are very clear like morals to a lot of these little moments in a way that I find very charming. And this one had one, and it was funny where it's like, hey, actually supply lines and access to capital is this really important thing,
and it helps the world go round.
It helps the world go round.
Well, yeah, it was like a really weird like economic lesson in the middle of the story. Oh.
Yeah, I know, it's so funny. But what was really funny was this morning, and this is probably this is a little moment of Undertower's dad corner, but my daughter loves Bluey. I think all our daughters love Bluey.
Of course,
it's funny where like my wife watches Bluey with my daughter very often, but for some reason I'm around, working and everything less often when the Bluey is on, and somehow I end up seeing the same episodes of Bluey very often. But then
sure,
but then I'll also get to see new ones every once in a while, which is like, oh, I've never seen this one before. This is on in the house. And then but one I've seen a bunch is the markets episode, where they go to the farmer's market and Bluey's got a $5 note and a buddy, and then there's this whole big bit where they like that $5 passes hands a bunch of times to get back to Bluey, where you like it's one of these things where you see like the spending of money. It doesn't just go somewhere. It goes to this person who then can spend who then can spend it. And then it's like, what's funny is the episode is literally called Markets. So it's like another one that's like, it's very on the nose what they're doing here, but but it ends up doing it. But it was just so funny because I'd already wanted to talk about this episode. I was like, oh, that's funny. Bluey's doing the same thing. Oh, hey, money changing hands. It's not a zero-sum game, actually. Markets aren't necessarily zero-sum. When the money's all flowing around, we all kind of benefit if we're all spending and doing things. Not quite access to capital and trade routes, but close. And I just thought that little like that little simpatico was kind of fun. So
hey, Bluey and Frieren,
great examples of
both cartoons.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I don't want to call either of you out. Do you have a slice of?
No, I have stuff.
Okay, go ahead.
I have two because my first one is very short. I just love that one that was like watching Wild Robot. all like just out of nowhere, like there's
Oh,
just thing in the vineyard is destroying everything, and they go out there and they find that it was like, you know, an old, I don't even know. It reminds me of so many things, which is why I love Frieren so much. It reminds me of Interstellar. It reminds me of like of
yeah,
Wild Robot I just mentioned, but and also Wally, just like all the like little like electronic futuristic stuff that
yeah,
is somehow just randomly inserted into this world in this slice of life story, which is why I love it. Is because it elevates the story out of medieval fantasy only and
yes,
brings in this huge sci-fi thing. Like I don't know if it did that for you guys, but that one moment just like oh whoa, this is actually
yes.
Mhm.
science fiction. Like this is technologically advanced, and so that was cool. My other favorite side quest story, which I think actually is going to play a much bigger part in this overarching thing we're heading towards with reconnecting with Himmel, is the Hero of the South. What was that?
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
yeah,
awesome. How he beat like basically half of the seven deadly demon, not sins, but demons type thing. I
yeah.
love that. And also how it like it flashed back and he was like, no, I would have been actually the main hero, but I did this so that Himmel could fly, basically.
I did it. Yeah, and then it turns out that there's a demon that can tell the future, but he can also tell the future. So then
Yeah, it's
he's
like a
revealed.
canceling out thing. It's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
it's really cool. He's
That's why I
revealed.
loved it. It just
Yeah,
it upped the ante for like what actually is. I don't think it's retconning anything. I just think it's like it's complicating the plot
no,
in a really,
I
really
I
fantastic way. So
I
I
fully
love
fully
this.
agree. I
Love
fully
this.
fully agree. Those are great. Steven, did you have any of
Yeah,
those?
there's a couple moments. One was in a flashback, and these are, I feel like these are kind of interconnected in a thematic way, not in a literal sense. Um, and my timeline is a little wonky since I haven't watched the anime, so I don't know the exact cutoff moment.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
forgive me if this is dipping backwards a little bit. But I love the moment. I don't remember exactly which episode it's in, but it's a flashback sequence where we find out that Himmel's sword, his hero sword,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
magical hero sword, is actually
Yeah,
just
so cool.
a replica.
Yes,
It's just a replica sword. Um, but he, continues using it, obviously, and through the use that he puts it through and what he does with it, it's no longer a replica sword. It is a
right,
hero's sword because
right,
he is a hero and he wields it to heroic ends.
It
right.
makes him
And
hero.
even though he knows it's a replica, he's gonna make it something, and I love that. And then
Yeah.
similarly, I feel like, again, in a kind of a thematic sense, I love the little one shot where we find the guy that they've found this. He's been searching his whole life to get past this one magic door to get this stash of booze, but
And
that's
the
behind this
whiskey.
magical booze that's
The
behind
bow
the door.
shaft.
That's the
Oh my
greatest,
God, so funny.
the greatest elixir of the gods drink that has ever been known to the world. And it's, this ancient elven liquor that's been stashed behind this rune covered
Freeman
door.
like
and
actually
and
knows the chick that stashed it too. She's like, oh
yeah,
man, this
she knows
friend.
she knows the exact, it's the thing, it turns out it's all a joke that these bored elves pulled on people
I mean, it would literally be
by
like me like messing with like Cora or Lucy like 100 years later or something like
Yeah,
how.
exactly. And it's just like a cavern full of, fantasy malort or something
Yeah.
just disgusting. And that's the whole thing is they open it up and he tries it, and this is the worst drink that I've ever had my entire life. But instead of being downcast about that or feeling like his life was wasted,
Yeah.
they invite the whole village up and they have a party. They have a worst
In,
booze ever party, and everybody just gets
yeah.
together and has a moment. It's like that's kind of one of the things I love most about Frieren, and especially the one shots, is these little slice of life moments are all about that greater theme from Frieren of appreciating and not taking life for granted, even if
Yeah,
it's not going
weird
the way you
radical.
thought it was going to,
Yeah.
or even when like it's anticlimactic or silly. It's rolling with the punches and appreciating and loving the life that you're in right now.
No, that's you're so right. It's that is one of the really wonderful moments. And interestingly, the when you talk about the anime cutoff with your thing about the sword, there's a that sort of comes up in two different ones. One is in the anime where we find out there is a hero sword that's magical and special that Himmel wasn't able to pull. But then there's one later where we find out in a flashback that the Himmel was offered an even better sword than his replica, but he didn't want to take it because he wanted to keep his sword because that's like what was right for him. And then the dwarf that they meet that wants to make him a sword fit for him says, okay, well, I'll just sharpen your sword for you. And it's another one of those moments where it's like, yeah, it's this way. It's like, again, it's like a very sort of cliched be yourself moment, but like Frieren just manages to nail those moments every time.
Yeah.
In a way that like, you feel the heart of it. And then
that's a great way to say it, because it is a cliche. It is that, no, be yourself, be yourself.
And then
but from a totally refreshing way of looking at it.
Before we move on to the bigger arcs, I also love and this is a through line throughout. I love the sort of will they, won't they, and the young love.
Oh my God.
Infatuation between Fern and Stark. It's just so great. It's so wholesome as two people that are like 18-ish, and years pass during these stories, so they age through it. But like, they're sort of in the whole like, there's just several different stories about them like buying gifts for each other on their birthdays, and
it's so sweet.
It's so sweet, but it also manages to capture feelings I remember having as a teenager, where you're like, I don't know what to do. Like, what do they want? I don't, it manages to like capture that actual feeling and deal with it in a way that it just feels so like heartwarming. It's also like, it's obviously anime and manga are not afraid to be horny. And Frieren isn't either. There's boob jokes, but it's also like never too, like, not too far. But it never goes, it doesn't go as far as Dragon Ball does, for one.
No.
But it feels
appropriate. Anybody's crotches.
I know, right? It manages to feel sweet and appropriate, but I also like the way it's not scared to kind of do that and go there. And kind of incorporate that into the overall story. It is.
It's an important part of life.
Okay. So as they progress through the plateau, we come to realize we have met a wizard who is an imperial wizard who has decided to become a first-class mage so that he can travel to this region that's off limits unless you are a first-class mage, which is a huge arc in the beginning of the show, and a fantastic arc, in my opinion, especially as someone who loves Hunter x Hunter. It felt very rich.
But definitely in this context, a staging arc.
Yes. But Dinkin is the Imperial Mage. And we've learned he wants to go see his wife's grave, and he has to become a first-class mage to do so. Well, we learn that his town of Vice has been turned to gold.
Bad thing.
We've learned that this happened. Say it again.
This is a bad thing.
It's a bad thing. Yes. Yes.
On the nose, that sounds okay. What's the problem?
That sounds. I mean, it could be good. Yeah. Go.
People too.
It is the classic Midas kind of good thing.
It's a classic Midas thing.
Everything turns to gold. Literally everything.
Yes, but it's revealed to us that Mocked, the Golden, is the most powerful of the seven demons. The most powerful of the seven stages of destruction. One of which has already been killed, as we've watched, which is Ara the Guillotine. and during the
What a
during the
badass
event.
name. The Stage of Destruction.
Yeah, I know, it's good stuff. But
Yeah.
but I really think this is one of my favorite arcs that I've read in any manga, because of the way it dives into the character of Dinkin and his quest to reunite with his wife. The way it then develops the character of Mocht, who is a demon. The way it then brings in the politics and the situation of the city of Vice. And then Frieren's role in this, which it's just so masterfully done that we find out there's this golden town.
Well, this is not the first time we met Dinkin either. Dinkin
No,
was like
no, Dinkin's in
character.
the first age arc, and he's pretty fascinating character in there.
He is, but he's amongst like probably half a dozen others similarly fascinating characters.
Yeah, absolutely. He's
like elevated to like, oh, the story is almost about him at this point. Like
it is. And so Vice, this city, we've learned, has been turned to gold. Mocht is this unbeatable demon who uses a curse.
Mutation curse.
Because a curse is a spell that humanity basically doesn't understand and then therefore cannot directly counteract.
Which I love that differentiation between spell and curse.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. And then but because of that, we find out Mocht the demon has turned this land to gold. And then it turns out that there's been many attempts to steal this land. This land's been sealed off with a magic barrier. Mocht is trapped in, but without fail, the golden area of the land has been slowly spreading. So that everyone knows we have to figure this out at some point, or literally the entire world, I think, will turn to gold.
Yeah.
But Mocht has to be dealt with in order for this to be figured out. But then at this point, there's a wizard also in the first class mage exam who's really good at hypnosis. She does not pass the test, but she's brought back in where, using her hypnosis powers, she gains Mocht's memories. And Dinkin and them have teamed up and have enlisted Frieren to help solve this problem. We learn that you can pass memories on through touch and the use of magic. And many of the things we see in this arc then now are flashbacks, which are for the most part either someone telling the story of what's going on, but for the most part it is Frieren experiencing the memories of Mocht and the Golden Land. It's hard not to just talk about how much I just love it all, but it is so it's not convoluted, but it just is very quickly really complex, because we find out that there is a bracelet that can be used to make any demon serve you. We find out pretty quickly that Dinkin is at this, because it's a flashback to 50, 60, 70 years ago. Dinkin is a child at this time. Mocht is then enlisted by this city, by the mayor of this town of Vice, to it's Lord Gluck. But we find out this town of Vice is totally overrun with corruption and horrible crime boss families. And through a confluence of events, Mocht is sort of sick of fighting. He doesn't really like humans, but he's sick of fighting. And so he's wanting to try to understand things, and he comes to realize he can't experience malice. So he can't experience actually hating humans or guilt. He can't really feel bad for anything he does. And these things, there's mention that demons don't experience malice. They just kill, and that's what they are. That's part of the problem, is they just kill and they don't feel bad about it. That's part of the whole issue. They don't really want to do it. They just do it and they don't feel bad about it. And so Mocht is on this quest to see if he can understand the emotions, malice, and guilt. And the first way we learn that he's attempting to find this out is by killing a town, leaving 2 kids to be the only survivors, and giving them knives and saying, I'll let the one of you that lives survive, to see if he can experience malice or guilt because of that action.
By osmosis, if he can soak it up, if he can if he can observe it enough times, if he can start feeling it himself. So it's so messed up.
So messed up. But it's pretty quick. Where like I remember first reading it, I was like, oh, okay, we're actually gonna get the whole demons are more complex than we thought story. And it's pretty quickly like, oh no, this is something else. This is totally something else.
This thing does not register on any human scale of right and
but
wrong.
It cements it does kind of cement that idea of demons as predator species to humans. It also, I think.
Well, this one has a weirdo motive though, because he wants to know what it feels like.
Well, so that's where I'm going, is like there is a genuine interest in understanding humans in Mocked. And what I ended up finding so fascinating about this arc is that Mocked in that sense is almost kind of like an evil mirror version in some ways of Frieren.
Yes.
Because Frieren is devoting herself to understanding people better so that she can fully appreciate these relationships that she has, and also the relationships that she had in her past. And she's coming at it from a place of love.
Yes.
Whereas Mocked he has a similar desire to understand, but he does not have that capacity as a demon. He doesn't have that capacity to love,
yes,
to care for any of these people. And so it is kind of the, Star Trek mirror evil universe version of Frieren's own kind of journey.
No, it's so good. And then the wonderful thing that we end up finding out, which adds this really, really great level of complexity, that Mocked is the one that taught Dinkin magic.
Yeah.
He's the one that trained him.
His teacher.
Yes. And was his teacher.
Official teacher.
It's really interesting though, the way, and I'm curious what you guys felt. There's another really interesting demon called Solitaire who does not believe that humans and demons can really coexist, but she's fascinated with them.
A Solitaire?
Solitaire, yep. She's fascinated by humans and loves to study them. There's some really great stuff with Solitaire as well, who's super creepy. But Mocked really does want to understand. And Mocked is, again, he's still a demon. So he basically, as far as we are told, cannot understand. But I really found myself like rooting for him, like to figure it out, because it would be a good thing, obviously, if he could figure it out and care and be better. It was interesting the way I empathized with his like desire to understand. But at the end of the day, he shows you over and over and over again that he can't. And it is
that way the whole time until Frieren said, "I've only ever met one other demon that wanted to empathize with humans the way you do."
Sure, which is an interesting little tidbit we get.
That blew it up for me. That was
I agree, because it is revealed in this moment that the Demon King is the other demon that wanted humans and demons to coexist. He wanted to find a way for them to coexist, which is why his whole
was domination.
Which we don't really have many details of still, but that's why the whole demon war and demon onslaught begins, is because he's trying to find a way for demons and humans to coexist, which I cannot wait. I cannot wait for that to be
explored
more. And really, I can't wait to meet the Demon King, to be honest. I'm pretty certain he's going to be very different than I expect.
Yep.
And because of Mocked, I'm also like gearing up. I'm bracing for him to be sympathetic in a way I'm not expecting to at this point. Like
he might even be like a little kid.
I don't. I have no idea. I have no idea.
Like Pride and Full Metal.
But yeah, that's interesting. But oh man, it's just even hard to talk about just because I love it so much. But it's basically at this point, Frieren analyzes the memories. The barrier is analyzed by the solitaire character that we've met, who is a greater demon. That there is
in tandem with Frieren.
Say it again.
In tandem with Frieren
analyzing it. But Solitaire, the demon, breaks the the barrier that's holding Mocked, which allows now the gold to spread even faster. And we get a great little bit of suspense where Frieren is turned to gold in the process of analyzing these memories. And this is when Fern and Stark begin to fight Solitaire. And the wonderful little tidbit is revealed that Frieren always taught Fern, if you meet a greater demon who no one has ever, if you meet one and that greater demon
you don't know their name,
has never been named before, and you have no record of them because she's taught her the name of every greater demon that they know of, what that means is that greater demon has killed everyone they've ever met. And that's why there's, and otherwise has been in hiding. And that's why there is no record of them, which is a really funny sort of like, do not fight that demon.
Yeah. If you encounter a demon that you don't know their name, run.
And then of course they do fight them. Of course. Yeah. Of course they do.
Because they're little studs. They're badasses.
It's a great little setup and then change. But then they are also turned to gold. So they are not killed, but it sets that up. And then Frieren is one, and I know we've talked about this fact, Stephen. We're like, and maybe both of us, but I love that Frieren manages. It is not a battle shonen in the typical sense, because lots of battles, lots and lots and lots of battles are literally yada yada in both the anime and the manga, where something will be set up with a monster and it's over in seconds, panels, one page.
Yeah. Monster fights, yes.
Especially. But then it will zoom in on certain magic battles. It will zoom in on certain battles with demons to let you see the way they think when they fight, that the thought process behind it, because so much of it is, again, there's a lot of, one of the things I really love about this, we haven't actually talked about it all, is how magic is all about your imagination. And what you can imagine happening becomes possible. And and so we end up with a really wonderful fight between Frieren and Solitaire. And then Dinkin is insistent that he can take on Mocked, even though Mocked is much, much, much more powerful than him. And I found the Mocked Dinkin fight to be incredibly both moving and effective, because we get to see a little bit of them sparring in the memories as well. And
it did feel like a Krillin fight, though, to be honest.
It was a Krillin fight, but also they let it's a fight where Krillin actually gets to shine, which is something I've actually come to really admire in anime, where like the show does not lean on just Frieren to win every fight, where for the most part, Dragon Ball Z, which is not a discredit to it, Goku wins most of the fights. And then there is a few that are won by, then, it clears the way for Gohan eventually, occasionally, and a few others, which again, DBZ is wonderful. So no shade thrown. But something I really admire about Hunter x Hunter personally, and several other manga, is when it'll clear the way for one of the other party members. There's a bunch of fights where Fern wins. It clears the way for Stark, and we see the importance of warriors in little moments. And Fern plays a key role in this fight as well. But and the details of the fight, where it's like you have to condense your mana. There's all these sorts of details that I really love, and you have to get really granular, and we're talking pretty big picture here. So but I really love the way that Dinkin's fight with Mocked incorporates some of these same ideas, and it incorporates his knowledge of his master, and he saves his one trump card to win. And honestly, it does a really good job, because it's Dinkin fighting him. I really didn't, the first time I read this, I did not have a good sense of whether Dinkin was going to win the fight or not.
Yeah.
And again, it's a shonen, so like you assume it's going to work out. You assume they're going to win the day. You don't know how, but this sets this. They do a really good job in this one of setting the stakes up to where like I kind of thought the first time that Dinkin might lose, and then Frieren have to like come in and save the day, or potentially even Fern. But it was really great the way I really enjoyed the fact that Dinkin gets to come in and actually defeat his master, and like, you know, not save his wife. His wife has already passed away, but he gets to be the one to like save it. Although it is obviously Frieren's knowledge of the spell, because Frieren solves the gold purse to make it a spell. There's a really wonderful moment where she says, "This is a curse no longer," and solves it, and then is able to turn everything back to reality from gold.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant arc.
Yeah, it's hard not to just gush, because I seriously love it so much. And honestly, I might even be, it might not even be a lot of people's favorite arc in this moment, where a lot of people would probably the time travel arc is probably going to end up being a lot of people's favorite arcs, and maybe we should begin talking about that.
Yeah. Time travel is also phenomenal, but I would say thus far, Golden City mocked arc is my favorite thus far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. So, time travel arc.
Time travel arc.
Time travel arc. Well,
Indeed.
we get a time travel arc, the statue of the goddess.
So to first start talking about that, you have to start talking about the magic of the goddess.
Which we haven't talked about much. There are we meet
Basically all in their Bible.
Yes,
All of the
basically.
magic is in their Bible. However, only 2% of the entirety of all of the magic has been decoded and used, which is crazy.
Which is
phenomenal.
It's so good. Yes, the magic is revealed by studying the scriptures and by deciphering the secret hidden coded magic within the scriptures.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic little drip of lore building, because we're told the magic of the goddess is different, that we're pretty early on. It's told you have to have a scripture to do it, and Frieren could even she has a scripture, so she can do some like minor healing spells. But
right.
Obviously
there's a priest.
Yes, Heiter is a priest we meet, and then goatee priest is our other little priest we get who comes in and out of the story. Then there's a priest eventually on an evil team, or an opposing team later on, which is a pretty fun one.
Oh yeah.
And I just got hit by an acorn. But I know, right? Attacked by trees. But yeah, so in their journeys, they find a kind of decrepit and torn down statue of the goddess, and Frieren touches it and is teleported back in time to another time when she touched that same statue while she was journeying with the party of the heroes.
Was it 60 years before?
Yeah, I think about that sounds about right. And which is the way that's revealed to us in the manga is great, because it happens, you don't really know what's happened, and then the next page says, you know, whatever, it's so and so, or whatever region, 60 years before the death of Himmel the hero, which is like, again, it's just like, oh okay, because throughout the manga we get told how many years past the death of Himmel it's been. So it's a great way to reveal like kind of it's a great little fun way to reveal what's happened in the story. But yeah, it as far as like the feels go, the time travel episode where you get to really, where it really nails down for you how much Frieren has changed. And then also we've gotten to spend a decent amount of time with the party of heroes in flashback, getting
Yeah.
to spend some time with them in reality and to see what their vibe was like amongst each other. It just made me really happy.
Oh, it's beautiful. And it's beautiful getting to see Frieren get to go back and be with these people
With
again
her,
after she's made these changes in herself.
yes. Well,
And getting to see how, like, she obviously needs and wants to get back, and she in fact, like, she chooses not to just stay
yes,
because she can't abandon Fern and Stark,
yes,
her new family. But to
yes.
see her get to go back and just be with the original team for a little while
It's
was deeply moving.
it's so good. And pretty quickly some really interesting demons show up. There's this whole thing of like magic is developed. There's some really great stuff about how she doesn't feel like she can reveal magic that she shouldn't know yet. So there's this push pull of her having to use less advanced spells, which is a really fun idea. It's
Well,
also
and
like, by the way, it's a really fun idea for a JRPG, which I've never seen before. There's time travel in a bunch of good JRPGs, but like the idea that now you can't use these better spells because you've gone back in time and you don't reveal that you can do them is a really fun,
yeah,
really fun idea.
but I also love it shows how much, even though at the time she hadn't learned how to open up to her team
Yes,
herself,
yes,
uh she it shows how much they loved and trusted her,
even so.
because eventually they of course obviously encounter situations where she has to use her advanced magic to get them out, and and she kind of tells them like that she's from the future
Yes,
and she knows stuff, and she has to be careful about using it so that it doesn't throw the timeline off, and they
yeah,
just 100% accept
like
it, and they
totally fine.
don't they're like, we're with you, we trust you, we've got your back.
Yeah,
And it's just again, it's such a touching arc.
it is. So they end up fighting demons. There's some really good action. Um, and Frieren handles action really well.
Yeah.
During this arc is during these moments is when the magic of the goddess information is revealed, which is also just so stinking fascinating. And I that is one thing I will say that Frieren manages to add more details to what's going on, the way magic works in this world, whether it's regular magic, I don't know if that's the right way to call it, but regular magic, and then the magic of the goddess, other mechanisms, the way things work in new and advanced ways, it manages to do that and make it gives you more details that recontextualize the way things were working in the past, but it never feels like things were being like hidden from you in a way that was disingenuous. It just does a really good job of expanding the world, which is something that I also think is a really classic like that's something that happens in DBZ constantly. There's new levels of power, but it does it in a really, really, really well done way. And I really like the way all that stuff's handled. But the fight with the demons is really great. And then the arc has a really wonderful moment where it wraps up, where you get to we get to see a lot of moments with Himmel where you get to see like, wow, he really is that dude. When there is a demon that is really advanced in hypnosis and gives both Himmel and Frieren a vision, and the vision is of them at a wedding.
Yeah. So
And
we're
it's
also getting a view of like confirming that there was a something there.
there is and that their like deepest desires were to be together, especially at this point when Frieren's really realized it. And it's
Yeah.
also very obvious that like Himmel's been in love with Frieren for
Yeah,
a
he
while.
was there the whole time.
Yes. But then the way the fight is revealed, where Frieren can't get out of this illusion. She can't get her way out of it. But Himmel, even without using his vision or his senses, is able to fight back through the illusion because he can realize it's not real. And that sequence was just so well done. It really shows you Himmel's value in a way where you're like, okay, because honestly, that's one of the things it does. Like, the mages are so powerful. Sometimes you're wondering, and the warriors get shown their value in the next segment. But like, we're often like, what do warriors even do in this scenario? What does he do? And you see, it's like, okay, there's real moments where without a hero, without a warrior, you really are in a tough spot. Magic can only get you so far.
It also is it's kind of a great example too of seeing how, like, no, this is not Himmel the warrior. This is Himmel the hero.
It's Himmel the hero, and it is a different thing. It is a different thing. Oh, it's so good. But Himmel sees through the ruse, is able to,
which also is kind of very Dragon Quest.
It is. It is because
the warrior is a class in Dragon Quest, but hero is kind of its own. Ends up being its own class as well.
I'm waiting for Himmel to call down lightning, but I don't know if we'll ever. I don't know if we'll ever get that, but which I was way too old when I realized in Dragon Quest that you were literally praying down the lightning was kind of what you were doing in that moment, and sort of a different thing than I realized at the beginning, but beside the point. But like with the idea being that the hero is literally like blessed by the gods, and the god, something will intervene on your behalf in this sort of different way, which is just a really cool idea. But yeah, the time travel arc, it's so good. You get to see Frieren's progression. It's so cathartic. It's like, it's also so fan servicey, if I'm being honest, but it never feels that way. It never, or at least in the way that can feel like gross or cheap. It really captures something special. But I don't know, that's probably most of what I'm kind of surprised at, but that's really most of what I have to say about that segment. But it's really, really, really very wonderful.
Truly. I think that it was a huge teaser for the Demon King.
I think that it was not wrong.
It was almost like a confirmation of like, yes, I haven't shown you him for a reason.
Yeah.
Because even when we go back, it's like, okay, now he's the big bad. We're supposed to be fighting this guy like actively, and we still don't see him.
So well, this is another kind of, this is a story structure thing that is brilliant about Frieren, and it reminds me of the novel, where you have the two timelines of story that are on parallel journeys.
Yes.
In Frieren's case, parallel journeys going north, and you're bouncing back and forth between the two stories.
Yes.
As so, like, I hate flashbacks most of the time, but in this case, it's very deftly used because it still is progressing the story, because it is the two mirroring journeys going north towards, in the one case with the Demon King, and in Frieren's modern, in the caught up timeline, she's going in that same, she's recreating that same journey. So it almost makes me as interested and excited to see like what parallel thing is Frieren and Fern and Stark going to encounter when they get to the Demon King Citadel, that is kind of the mirror parallel to the encounter, the original fight with the Demon King.
It does make me wonder.
Himmel's timeline.
It does make me wonder, and I think this is a fun moment to kind of do this as we get into the next segment, which is an ongoing portion of the manga. And I do think this portion will be set up or potentially hinted at in the next season of the anime, but we will probably not get here in the next anime. But do you guys think the Demon King will be either just sealed up or around or locked away, or was he actually killed? I know it says he was defeated,
Right.
but I'm really curious. It feels like maybe we only see him in flashback, but I'm curious. What do you guys think is going to happen there?
I think dismembered maybe,
Interesting.
and like kept in different parts. Because the mock thing, I don't think they're gonna do that same thing again, but they were introducing the idea.
Yeah, because we've had a
The
couple
idea
of the demons stealed
right.
away.
It's keeping the demons at bay, if you will. And so I think that the Demon King would be maybe dismembered, like his head is somewhere, his arms are somewhere, or something like that.
Interesting. I like that.
I think he's probably dead.
Sure.
But like I kind of was saying, I think that there will be something that is an equivalent threat or an equivalent challenge for Frieren to overcome.
Yes.
But she has grown to the point where she and her new group can handle it without Himmel the hero being there.
Right. Well, and then also I do think the fact that the hero sword is around, the hero sword, and it's not been claimed, I just can't believe that that's been set up for there not to someone show up and take that sword eventually.
Maybe.
It feels
I do like that Stark has an axe though.
It is. I love that Stark has an axe. Well, and I am wondering, which he's going to show up in a minute, but we find out that Sign, our goatee priest, who has been on a quest to find his compadre, and he's sort of the de facto priest in their party, but he's introduced late into the story, and then he disappears, and he's going to rejoin us in this next arc we're going to talk about. He's searching for a buddy who's the guerrilla warrior, and I have wondered if he might be the one that ends up taking that sword. But he's like the only contender right now that I could see it, because with Stark having an axe, I just don't think it'll be Stark. I think Stark is going to be the warrior and continue in the warrior role. But I am very curious if that might be a role for guerrilla warrior as things progress.
It's gonna be it'd have to be a big change though, because we know what guerrilla warrior has been up to.
Absolutely. And all that being said, after this segment, we get actually finally introduced to the Empire, which has been talked about quite a bit. Yeah. And I had not really registered what was going on there, but there is in the north an actual empire that at one point spanned the entire continent.
Yeah, it's the remnants of this empire.
But it's the remnants of this empire,
it's
which
the
was
Byzantium.
Set up, basically, yes. And it was set up by Frieren's master, Flame, way back in the day, but at the point where people don't even remember she was a woman at this point. And it's a really, really fascinating depiction now of everything else we've seen, where the Empire is a magic using society where magic is ubiquitous, basically. Even normal folks, for the most part, use magic to some degree. And there's even then the magic special forces. Yeah. But we also learned that there was a department within the Empire called the Shadow Warriors, who were, basically the magic. Well, and it's kind of funny actually. We've got sort of like the magic special forces are sort of the CIA, but then the Shadow Warriors are sort of an assassins guild.
They're like the Manchurian Candidate,
basically
magic assassin dudes.
And we get a wonderful little couple chapters where there's this Shadow Warrior guy who was actually given a list of names, and one of the names was Frieren, of these people he was supposed to kill if he ever saw them. And he lived in this little pass that everyone had to pass through to get to there, but they built a new road, so it's gone defunct, and he's developed this whole life now, which also that whole segment was just so wonderful also.
Yeah.
Yes. again, it just like every time it's like I don't think I could love this story more than I do. It's like, okay, you're gonna do the hitman with one last job thing, but also in this other way where he's actually an antagonist, but he's like Frieren built a life where actually his life will kind of be ruined if he does this last job.
And he chooses not to.
And he chooses not to, but also still kind of, he can't deny like his training, like from jump.
Yeah.
Even though he knows these orders are basically like not even real anymore.
Well, and what we come to find out just a little bit later is that the orders don't exist anymore.
No, they don't.
Like the Shadow Warriors have been disbanded.
Officially
but
disbanded.
They're so deeply undercover that it was impossible to get that
totally
information to all of them.
And then because of that, they still exist in this secret function, and they are like self-perpetuating and now attempting their own ends, because we again find out now that Siri, who is the head of the wizard organization and one of only 3 elves that we are aware of still living, that we find out that the Shadow Warriors have actually killed one other great elf wizard. We find this out just through like a little rambling. But as we get into the Empire, some of our other first-class mages from the exam have been sent there ahead of time as Siri is coming to this like grand wizard's ball and grand empire's ball as a head of state guest thing. The Shadow Warriors, well, excuse me, the Magic Special Forces buck up against some of these first-class mages. And then similarly at the same time, I really love the way it's like, okay, we've got an empire where magic is ubiquitous. We're seeing here where, because of the continuation of magic, that they don't actually correctly remember what Flame was like and what these other heroes were like. They've changed the statues over time because they've attempted to retain the memories of the past. They've actually modified them and they've changed them, which is also a really fascinating idea, that these places where the memory is lost, they actually retain the essence of them more in these little random towns. But in the place where the memories was attempted to be maintained, they've actually changed it so much to where it's unrecognizable to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But then we've got our first-class mage people, and our party of heroes has now gotten wrapped up in the events of this politicking that's going on, where they're going to be bucking up against the Empire and the Magic Special Forces, who are trying to maintain the peace and keep everything calm, but also these Shadow Warriors, where it also makes it very clear as it's developed that warriors, really adept warriors, are very formidable against mages because of their speed and their dexterity, that they can actually kill mages, not with impunity, but they are serious forces to be reckoned with. And I really, really enjoyed that, because it's actually said in one moment that actually Stark could kill Fern and Frieren if he really wanted to, because he's so close to them and strong. And Stark kind of takes this information as like, what? But that's also set up in an earlier moment that shows up in the manga, where Fern becomes very scared because she feels like Stark grabs her on the shoulder and she just feels how terrifyingly strong he is. So like some of these little details have been like drip fed to us. So it's not a total shock, but it's really really well done. All that being said, we get to this head of state ball, and I'm yada-yadaing a bunch of things that happen, but I'm just really, really fascinated where it's all going to go. The last chapter we get is the Empress talking with the head of the Magic Special Forces, who's basically like, don't get in my way. I'm going to do some things that maybe you won't love it, but let me do it. And I will say, for all the people though, who are like, oh, Frieren is giving us this uncomplicated version of demons and universal evil and absolute evil, or whatever, predators that have to be eradicated. in that same story, we are now getting
Yeah.
the opposite of that.
Everybody's complicated.
Everybody's complicated. Their reasons and methods for what they're doing are unique. They're not evil. They may need to be stopped, or maybe they are evil, but it's a human evil where it is competing motivations and conflicting interests between the Sorcerers Guild, basically, of the southern regions against the Empire and against this subset of this defunct Special Forces Assassins Guild. And
Right.
I again, it's just like, again, I just like, hats off. Like, I don't know how you did it again, but you did it again. This is fascinating. I don't know where it's going to go, but it's absolutely phenomenal.
Truly. Yeah. We're now getting like the Game of Thrones level political intrigue portion of Frieren, which is terribly exciting. And yeah, I don't know where it's going to go either. I have no idea, because every step of the way thus far, expectations have been subverted in the absolute best way. So I'm very stoked to see how that continues with this different story.
And it's been said so many times that Frieren cannot imagine Ciri being killed in a way where it's like Chekhov's gun at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering whether the subversion will be that, like, oh my God, Ciri is even so much more powerful than we imagined, that she literally, like, it is impossible to imagine her being defeated. Or are we going to get the opposite of that? And Ciri will be killed in this. Do you guys have a sense? Do you think at the end of this arc, Ciri's dead or not? Where are you at? I have a really hard time predicting it.
Feels pretty 50-50 to me.
I know, I'm in the same boat. I'm in the
Like,
same boat.
Honestly, I feel like either way is going to define what the potential of this can become.
Okay, here we're gonna do this rapid fire,
Let's do it.
and we're gonna reach deep into our hearts, and we're just gonna
All
make
right.
predictions here. And Steven, we'll start with you, so we'll do that,
Okay.
and then I'll go last. We'll go Steven, Sam, and then me. Does Ciri get killed, Steven?
Rapid fire, just off the tip of my head. I don't think so. I
Okay.
think that she has set this. I think that she has set herself up for the possibility of it, as much for a test for Frieren as anything else,
Okay.
because she very specifically did not give Frieren the first mage title.
Yes.
I feel like she has something else in
mind.
store for her.
I like it. I think
That said, that could also be that Ciri is going to die and Frieren is her replacement.
Absolutely. Sam.
So
I think Ciri is going to kill herself.
Kill herself.
I think she's been plotting this, and I think this is her last homage.
Interesting.
she's done.
Interesting. So then I will
Fascinating.
round us out, because when I asked it and I reached into my heart said she dies from a Shadow Warrior, and it is devastating and unexpected. But I do think what you said, Steven, could be that it is the setup of Frieren to replace Ciri as the head of magic. But honestly, all of the things we just said feel very realistically on the table, which is one of the things that's very fun.
That's what I think is going to define how it goes.
It really will. It really will. So, and I don't feel really good about saying that I think she might die. And also, it makes me like really deeply sad, even though Ciri's not like
truly
a good character.
I'm honestly excited if she lives or dies.
I know, it's kind of amazing regardless. So okay. This has been a fun discussion. And honestly, I was really excited to talk about this last bit. There's some really great battles in this stuff with the coins, and the fighting the priest and the arrows, and there's some really great action. The way they have to work together to thwart it, the way they use the fireworks, it's just all of it's stinking phenomenal. But I've got a couple rapid fires as we maybe start to wrap this up. But would this manga be better with mayonnaise?
With mayonnaise?
Man-apes.
Not mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise. There's a lot of food. There's a lot of food.
Like a light, like mayo, like
light mayo. No, man apes, Sam. Man apes. Wood
gray
Frieren.
apes.
Gray apes.
Oh God!
I said man apes. I meant gray apes. That is an absolute fail by me.
I'm gonna.
Gray
yeah,
apes.
I think I probably speak for the group when I say that I can't think of a single science fiction or fantasy story that would not be made better
by gray apes. Yeah,
by gray apes.
Gray
I'm gonna be honest though. Pride and Prejudice would be better with gray apes too.
Yeah, anything.
You know what?
Anything would be better
Jane Eyre,
with anything
gray
is
apes.
improved by gray apes.
Jurassic Park, gray apes.
100%.
Lost would have made a lot more sense with gray apes.
Lost would have been fantastic
with gray
some
apes. You think
Hey,
I called them-
Jurassic
I
Park
called
with
them man
gray
apes by
apes is
mistake.
essentially just King Kong. That's Skull Island. Is Jurassic Park with gray apes?
Like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days with gray apes?
Oh
Like,
my
With
god!
gray apes.
Third act gray apes.
Game changer, Third Act Gray Apes. That's a band name right there. Third Act Gray Apes.
Wow, it is a band name. Okay, would this be better by, or really, in what ways would it be different if this had been written by Gene Wolfe?
That's a phenomenal question, and I'm gonna say something heretical for our podcast. I don't know that it would be better written by Gene Wolfe.
It would not be bad.
It would be so different. It would no longer be Frieren.
I agree.
Honestly, Wizard Knight is Gene Wolfe's Frieren.
I basically agree with that.
I think he would first off have to take out all the pictures.
Well, you're right. It's a novel at that point.
Like honestly, if you just read it as it is with no pictures at all, it basically is a Gene Wolfe novel.
So here's the real question though. If this was written by Gene Wolfe, and maybe this is because I'm trying to think of some questions we can ask repeatedly each time. Maybe the real question is, if this was written by Gene Wolfe, who is the narrator?
That's a great question.
Yeah. I would think in this book
Frieren is an obvious choice, but I don't know if it actually is the right choice.
No. I think it would be the drunken priest.
The drunken priest.
I think it would all be conjecture at the end of it.
It's Hyder.
And he would.
I think Hyder is a great choice.
He would have tapped into some goddess magic about seeing the future, and it's like the future. But he's also like kind of drunk, so he's unreliable. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's totally Hyder in my opinion.
I think Hyder's a great choice. I think Stark would also be an interesting.
Stark is good.
He would be a different version of Stark.
Basically,
the older one, right?
I do think that Frieren is an interesting
Frieren is actually
POV character.
It's an interesting choice.
But I do like the idea of Wolf's version of the hunt for the Demon King from Hyder's perspective.
I do that too. So my pivot on that same Hyder idea is Fern is our narrator who is using Hyder's notes to report on the journey of the heroes. And then also, and so we've got two timelines going like we do in this story, but it's Fern reporting on Hyder's notes and stories while also conveying the notes. That would be that's
I like that too.
That's my Gene Wolfe's version of the story, I think. That being said, there's a version where R2D2 is telling the story of Star Wars style, where Siri is maybe the one telling all these stories to later generation, pending her death in this version we're reading right now. But
I mean, he has to be all like beep boops if it's R2D2.
True. Last. Okay. And then my last little one I had, would this manga be better if Frieren could go super elf?
Her hair gets all spiky and white.
Yes. Which she might be able to go super elf, and we just don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't think that there's ever a moment that I wouldn't like to see somebody go super something.
I mean, I will say that the art that we get
He kind of does.
when Frieren and any
Like
other
this stuff?
magic user, when we see what their mana is actually like, it is very power up Super Saiyan.
Yeah, it is.
So, I
So we
mean,
kind
yeah,
of get
fuck
it.
it. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Super elf.
But also no.
But
Like,
also no.
It
like,
depends. What do you mean? Yeah, like,
yeah.
is it Super Saiyan basically? Then no, but yeah,
Who knows?
I want to see that mana stack.
Hell yeah.
I like the Gene Wolf question a lot, and the Gray Apes one. Those are very funny.
Yeah, you're good. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to think of some more to use.
Yeah,
In general,
I
but
can't
we'll-
think of whenever I would say no to Gray Apes is the thing.
we're gonna try to read something where it's like gray apes actually.
They would kind of ruin it.
Yeah, no gray
Can't think of
apes.
one off the top of my head though.
We'll see. We'll see where we end up. Okay. Well, we'll add to this list of questions, but we'll also revisit some of these as well. I think we'll try to make this a recurring segment, but
I think Gray Apes would have messed up Galapagos. At the end of it, if they just like
No!
showed up and everybody seals and there's
it
just like,
depends. It
yeah.
depends on when they showed up. I think maybe. Yeah.
I don't think they belong in Vonnegut novels.
Yeah.
Actually,
Although-
I don't know. I'm gonna have to disagree. I would have loved to have read Vonnegut's Gray Apes.
honestly, would have been great. I would if we're gonna introduce gray apes, it's either at the beginning and they're just weird
Yeah.
before the world goes to crap, or it's gray apes show up at the end and just kill all the seal people.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they would do.
Beautiful. That's the end. That's the end of the episode.
There's just like
Gray
and
apes come and kill all the seal people, and
Yeah.
gray apes rule the earth now.
and it's just like seeing that
Planet
like
of the Gray Apes.
there's he just keeps seeing this like raft of like something in the distance. He's like, I don't know what's going on there. And then like right at the end they show up and just kill everyone.
Somehow they built a raft.
Somehow the gray apes built a raft. I feel like gray apes could build a raft. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's as likely as Palpatine coming back for sure.
And now we're
All
full
right.
circle, truly.
We truly are. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, I've not been as excited for a story as this one that I was unexpectedly excited about.
Yeah,
Truly. It's very special.
it
It's
really
a
is.
very, very special anime and manga. And I'm just so stoked to be on this journey and to keep seeing where it's going.
I agree.
On the end of a journey, which is the funniest thing. It's even called the At Journey's End.
At Journey
Yep.
End. Yeah. What happens
Yep.
next? Well, yeah, this has been fantastic. Love you guys.
Love you too. Phenomenal
And,
episode, everybody.
Absolutely.
Catch us on all of our socials. Give us a like and a subscribe. Leave a comment if you enjoyed tonight's episode. And we will see you at the next one. Namarie.